Dynamic pricing is here, and it is the full manifestation of our greed-fueled consumer society. I hate to say it, I don't want to be the guy to bring you this information, but this isn't a warning. This is a PSA for the masses, because you are already being targeted by this technology, and there is a very good chance that you've paid more for something that someone else did because an algorithm decided that you could afford it. The humble price tag, a simple and overlooked technology, has been the keeper of truth at the grocery store forever. Not quite. But today, we are seeing more and more stores shifting towards digital price tags or just removing them altogether. And see, the grocery store was the final frontier of this story. Companies have really held off on this category because, everybody needs to eat, right? But the thing is, this isn't even new technology. They've been price gouging in this way in other industries for quite a long time, and we'll talk about that soon. But today, with the advent of the internet, it's just a whole new Wild West. But online shopping made it so easy for any business interested in making more money to manipulate their prices based on who was looking at their products. Every time you accept those cookies, add something to your cart, Google search something, or even message your friend about something, you are feeding information into a system that will eventually, inevitably, use that information to calculate the price of a product that you are willing to buy. So if you are one of those people who says, they can take my data, I don't really even care, well, now you are literally paying the price. A huge thank you to Saley for sponsoring today's video. Now, we actually had this video suggested to one of us by one of our members over on Patreon. We have a little Discord group where we share ideas and talk about our consumer world, and this was one that actually made it into a video. But to give you an overview, dynamic pricing is when a business alters the price of a product based on what they believe a consumer will pay.
So I had looked into the difference between dynamic pricing and surge pricing because every single one of these companies, Wendy's had a huge scandal about how they were going to introduce dynamic pricing into their restaurants and everybody freaked out about it. And, Wendy comes out and says, it'll be fine. We're not engaging in surge pricing, so it's fine. Kroger said the same thing. They do not and have never engaged in surge pricing. So I'm like, what even is the difference here, right? Dynamic pricing is literally just changing the prices, increasing or decreasing. Surge pricing is only increasing to maximize profits surrounding a specific event for the most part, right? And so that's what people are the most scared of. A weather issue is happening, for example, a hurricane, and you go into the grocery store to pick up an umbrella and the umbrellas cost $50 all of a sudden. That's what people are really afraid about when people are saying there's dynamic pricing happening. That's what they're thinking. But it's realistically, in my head, the same thing.
If you're like a fast food company that's offering limited time combos or deals or a limited time discount, and then you're also offering surge pricing and saying those are two separate things, then you are just kind of doing dynamic pricing.
We've always been pretty dynamic with our pricing. It's just now we can change it on the fucking fly. The airline industry was the most famous for this, right? They established a norm where they would price a seat based on supply and demand for a particular route. And while this feels kind of normal, right? Almost logical, pragmatic, supply and demand, we all understand that concept. It feels a little less practical when you realize that flights cost exponentially more when they're leaving from areas that have been recently hit by a natural disaster. Imagine being forced to evacuate your home and all of a sudden the flights leaving your area are 10 times more expensive than usual. And it's stories like this that really hits to the core of this issue, because it puts the cold pragmatism of business right up against our humanity. Like, we all want to think that if a person fleeing a disaster who was in need came to us with something that we could give to them, that we would give it to them, maybe even for free, not use their situation as leverage to get as much money as possible from them, right? And this is why dynamic pricing, surveillance pricing, whatever you want to call it, feels so wrong. It feels uncivilized. The brutal, mechanical tactics of business versus the warmth and compassion that makes us human. This paragraph right here captures exactly the sort of gymnastics that companies are doing to sort of justify this behavior. Not all airlines adopt this approach. Some, like JetBlue during the same hurricane, capped their prices at $99 to assist evacuees, reflecting a strategic use of game theory to balance profits with public relations and corporate responsibility. Like right at the beginning, you were like, oh, that's great. Like they're giving people $99 tickets to get out of there. Oh, because they're using game theory. Because this is just a PR strategy. This is not about whether or not it's the right thing to fucking save a bunch of people who are desperate. But like, how can we still look good and make a bunch of money off of this crisis? Because like, you don't even know, like how long did they run the $99 tickets for? They could have run them for 24 hours. Those tickets could have been select for a certain window of time. Or like maybe you had to qualify for it or something. Like there's just so many ways in which this could make a really great headline and still deliver profits for shareholders. But my skepticism aside and what it actually turned out as, this is proof that they know that this is fucked up. They know that this is wrong, and so they gotta balance it out as much as possible. And listen, it feels grim, and that's because it is, guys. I kind of can't understate this, because if we see the disappearance of price tags, if dynamic pricing becomes normal and there's no regulatory oversight of how much things cost, we're pretty fucked. Like, this is the final frontier. One of the last battles that we can fight as consumers before we have to just lay back and let them extract value from our veins through an IV. Like, it's gonna be the fucking Matrix. Like, we're gonna be in the pods on the wall with the fucking saber in the back of our head. I don't know if it's like a gear or cog or something, but I just remember it was very gross. And right now feels very relevant. Now we're going to explain why and how this is all going down later in the video, but first we have to talk about how we got to this point. And before we talk about that, I want to talk about how we take brand deals on this channel, because today's episode is sponsored by Saley, and we chose them for a few reasons. So any integration that we take on this channel, first and foremost, has to be a functional product that we actually think is helpful. And in this particular circumstance, Saley offers a really great eSIM product that is better than other products and is very useful. Like if you're gonna go get a SIM card to go traveling, you might as well get one from Saley. 2, it can't promote or be just mindless consumerism. We're not going to sell a hype product or a product that's got a limited release or that has some sort of scarcity marketing tactic in mind. And 3, ideally, it's something that we have personally used. I have not used Saley, but Lou on our team has for her last trip, and she said it was great. And you know what? If I go on another trip in the future, I think I would use Saley myself. So with that out of the way, enjoy this ad read. So having to deal with dynamic pricing and inflated costs on the daily or for your plane tickets is bad enough. But if you're traveling, you're going to be overpaying for a bunch of other stuff. So you want to get the best deal possible where you can, and that includes your phone plan, everybody. That's why we're working with Saley, an eSIM service app that allows you to avoid unexpected roaming fees with plans available almost everywhere in the world. Plus, it saves you time at the airport because you don't have to wait in line to get a local SIM. So download the Saley app today, use code Hildebrand at checkout for an exclusive 15% discount, or scan this code right here on the screen to get started today. If you didn't know, back in 2023, when this channel was very, very young still, I decided to take a road trip around the US and Mexico for almost an entire year while still running this channel. And when you're living out of a car, it becomes really tedious to try and find spots with Wi-Fi to use your phone. And that is where Saley would have been extremely helpful. What is extremely convenient about Saley in comparison to other eSIM services is that once it's installed, there's no need to install a new eSIM for each country that you travel to. All Saley eSIM plans are compatible with iOS and Android devices, and if for some reason it doesn't work on your phone, you'll get a full refund. It's a no-brainer, so download the Saley app, use the code Hildebrand at checkout for an exclusive 15% off, or scan the code right here and get yourself started today. And you will have supported us and a company that is genuinely useful and not terrible. Let's get back into the video. So we're calling it dynamic pricing, but there's a few other names for it. But what I think would be a more accurate umbrella term would be price instability. We are experiencing price instability. And the reason why I chose this term is because it speaks to the context that has led to this new reality. See, there's a precedent that has been set here, and it has been building for decades, really. But it got going and exploded during the COVID years. Our global trade systems, with all of their checks and balances, got so massively disrupted that we saw the prices of things swing all over the place. Consumers started seeing prices on the shelves that they would have never accepted before if it weren't for these unprecedented times that we're living through. And what businesses all over the world kind of realized in those early days was that people were willing to pay twice as much for standard toilet paper rolls, or for their cars, or their concert tickets, or their streaming services. And as soon as that higher price had been pegged, it wasn't just seen as a high watermark, but as a new standard, even as things started to get resolved. But if you've been alive from 2020 till now, you know that the chaos really hasn't ended. The years that followed, we've only seen more chaos, and much of it orchestrated chaos led by one man with a lot of power who is using this instability to manipulate the markets and the prices to his advantage with one word: tariffs. Trump is effectively like a conductor of the worst orchestra of all time, and his goal is not to produce music, but to just create bigger and louder noises that distract and draw attention. Every time that a tariff is announced, revoked, altered, reinstated, or whatever, there is a new moment where a price can be set, or a new deal can be made. Donald Trump's economic policy is a pay-to-play model, where the companies that are allowed to participate and succeed are the ones that contribute to his interests and play the game that he wants them to play. But when a tariff is in place, it is the American consumer that pays the price for those affected goods, as we should all fucking know by now. But when that tariff has been changed or altered or even removed entirely, the prices stay high, and the companies and industries in question pocket the difference. And this is happening across the board and every day. And if we lose our price tags, there is really no limit as to how bad this could get. So this is what it looks like in the real world right now with digital price tags. Because I want to get one thing clear off the top. Digital price tags and dynamic pricing aren't really the same thing, but digital price tags allow grocery stores to do dynamic pricing. See, digital price tags are already showing up in grocery stores across Canada and the United States, and Walmart is supposed to be rolling these things out sometime this year. This will allow these businesses to change prices pretty much instantly, or up to 6 times per minute. My favorite is that they say that this is supposed to like prevent food waste in some way, which I guess could be true because you could theoretically discount overripe bananas really quickly so that they sell faster or something. But I'm going to speculate that this technology probably wasn't developed to save food from going into the landfill. It was probably there so that they can change the prices whenever they want to, so that they can increase the price of road salt during a snowstorm, or the price of umbrellas when it's raining. They don't care about food waste. We've never made any economic decisions based on food waste. If we made decisions based on food waste, we wouldn't have food waste anymore. Now, okay, calm down. Digital price tags are dystopian, yes, but as long as you don't need toilet paper during the next pandemic or sunscreen during a heat wave, it shouldn't affect you that much, right? What you really don't want is the online data collected about you being used to influence prices in the real world, which is already what we're seeing in some cases. Wegmans apparently is using facial recognition software to keep their customers safe and to target shoplifters, I guess. They also say that they use information from law enforcement for missing persons or criminal cases on a case-by-case basis to help it identify people to look for using its facial recognition systems. Rightfully, people are uncomfortable with this. So Wegmans is using facial recognition software to look for bad guys, I guess, or like people stealing or some shit. But then, what if ICE wants to use their video footage to track down somebody that they're looking for? I would bet $1 billion that Wegmans is going to give that footage to ICE. I don't think there's a world where that doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, it is a very slippery slope when we just start videotaping everything and using that data for whatever we want. Like, It's not good. We've talked about surveillance culture in our smart glasses episode. If you want to talk more about that, you can go find that episode. Maybe we'll link it in the description. Who knows? Maybe we're feeling cheeky. We'll make you search for it. But people are rightfully uncomfortable about this. And look, there have been some headlines about it. People are mad, but frankly, it's not enough. Because this is a test. They're seeing how this is received with a few stores so that they know how far they can take it before people start going to another store for their groceries. And look, there's a funny side of this, right? We're all like, oh no, digital price tags. But then we forget that like everything we buy online has a digital price tag. Uber's surge pricing is legendary. Amazon is like the poster boy of making up their own prices. And we made a whole other video about them too.
I think it points to physical stores trying to be like an online shopping experience, but nobody wants it at all. I think the idea of having a physical store where everything is behind plexiglass and none of the price tags matter. It's like, why are you there in the first place? Why are you not just buying shit on Amazon?
But these are just a few recognizable names and examples. The truth is that if you exist on the internet in any meaningful way, there is data about you and your preferences and your habits that companies are going to use to try and sell you stuff and, more specifically, sell it to you for the highest possible price. And there's another word for this, which has been thrown around for a while before we got really familiar with dynamic pricing, which is surveillance pricing. So one of the more public stories about this subject was with Instacart, who was apparently manipulating prices for different shoppers online. They have supposedly rolled this back because it was so massively unpopular, but while this particular example might have been beaten back, prices are going to keep changing. There is a lot of examples of this kind of behavior, and you can sadly basically guarantee that if you're buying something online today, there is a system of data and algorithms that are influencing you and the number that you see at checkout. But now, let's get into maybe the last and the most important part of this story, which is basically a question. How badly do you want it? We live in such a chaotic and overstimulating time that we expect volatility now in everything. So why not our prices? This incredible short that I saw on Instagram the other day captured it perfectly. The guy goes into a grocery store to buy soup because he's sick, and the self-checkout says that it's $34. And with all of the insanity going on in the world, he doesn't even think that it's that crazy for a bowl of soup from a grocery store to cost $34. Like, that's where we're at. We're so overstimulated that, like, in these moments where we are blatantly being gouged, we don't even know what is real anymore. We're like, am I being gouged? Like, it's blatant. Like, in my brain, I'm like, wow, that $34 is a lot for a soup. Soup. But how these massive corporations manipulate the prices based on our data online or whatever, it's kind of only half of the battle. We have found ourselves in this weird social time where we know what everyone else is doing. And the mob mentality creates these kinds of insane consumer behaviors that don't even make sense. Like we talked about in our Prime episode, that there is no logical reason for a bottle of fruit punch to sell for $1,500 USD, but it did. The truth is, we buy as much out of a need for connection as we do out of an actual need or desire. And we have financing options that are telling us every day that it's possible to have the thing that you want right now. The reasons for this is that we are ultimately social creatures, and we will pay what others are willing to pay for something. And with social media, you're seeing the explosion of social norms and expectations to the point where people are buying $1,800 Eras tour tickets or whatever. And this is why we always say in these videos, support small businesses, get yourself offline, and try something new that isn't going to fucking cost you a bunch of money. Like, there's a ton of ways that you can enjoy your life that doesn't involve tapping your card. One of the things I'm doing, dude, I'm pulling out like $500 cash at the beginning of the month so that I can more carefully follow what I buy on one hand, and also like avoid those transaction fees and put real cash into real people's hands and get some of that economic energy flowing, you know? Plus, there's the added bonus that you don't have big tech bros following your every consumer choice. This was a heavy one. It was a big one. Thank you so much for following and watching along. We'll see you next week for another upload.